inside here, you know, you get an insight and you know something, you know, but you don't want to say it out loud because you're kind of afraid that it's not going to be really true and it'll spoil the whole thing for you, you know. But when somebody makes you say it, then, and it's true, then it just makes it more beautiful of a thing.
I'm not crazy, Malin. I'm not crazy, Malin. I've just been in a very bad mood for 40 years. 40 years.
Welcome back. It's a brand new season of CGL.
This is just an absolute treat. These players are so damn good.
The talent on these teams is undeniable. Everybody on every team right now is making plays.
It's going to be an exciting start to the season, and it'll just get better from here on out.
We're about to step to a whole new era of Overwatch esports. So much exciting action is happening here on CGL that you do not want to miss. Look who's starting it all off. It's Raven.
No one necessarily figure out what is the right way to go just yet.
What a nice roll through! He's just gonna solidify everything with those.
Does come back, and Arsario gets the mech, but I don't need a mech. I'll kill 4 anyway.
This is just a highlight reel for Arsario right now.
They're making a statement in the EU Masters here.
This patch is still incredibly fresh. There's so much to learn, so much to change about the way we play the game.
NKC, but the shatter is colossal.
Let's get it going.
Trades keep coming through. Lores, you're gonna be able to find these shots true.
Idu on the overclock with 2.
Here comes an Avalanche immediately into back line. Fine skills, slicing and dicing their way through 2-3. So back and forth.
Hello everyone, welcome back to CGL. We are back here with some EU games coming up to you on this wonderful evening, or of course for me in the middle of the afternoon here in the States, but we have 2 teams going at it here for the first time in this season, Season 17 that is, for CGL. We've got EMC Chimera going up against Shenzhen Strikers. It is Rags and Gio bringing you the action. Gio, what are we kind of expecting coming into today's match?
Well, both of these teams have played in CGL prior. Shenzhen in last season's GM tier. EMC Chimera returning from 2 seasons ago, where they actually played in the open tier. Now, Chimera actually did decent in the open tier. They were up against very high-level talent. There's lots of face-it talent that enter the open tier. They actually made it to the playoffs, so now that they're in the GM tier, I'm expecting this team to come up big, but again, Shenzhen have been here before, so this is really 2 teams with history in CGL basically proving themselves against each other.
And as to where exactly that here is going to be, folks, we do already know what our first map of the series is going to be. This one is no surprise whatsoever, given that it is set in stone for this first week. It is going to be Oasis to kick things off for our control map. So starting off on an even footing here for both these teams, but once we get deeper into the series, that's when the strategy comes into play and we start getting a handle on where those bans come in, map and otherwise. Looking at exactly what our roster is going to be as we get further into this here is really where things start to get a little bit spicy. So our first ban is going to be Shenzhen Strikers.
Yeah, and this is where you kind of figure out where the strengths and weaknesses lie for teams, right? Oasis is like many control maps where there's plenty you can play with an asterisk because City Center is there, and that means you can ban something like a D.Va. Now, if you're not strong on D.Va right now, and D.Va does continue to be a strong tank character, then getting rid of her in Oasis means you are not coming up against it in City Center, not coming against it in Gardens, and you have that kind of freedom on the tank to play what you want to do.
Yeah, it certainly opens up, you know, Winston and D.Va kind of have this eternal flow between them, whereas, yes, sometimes Winston counters D.Va, sometimes D.Va counters Winston here. So if that's your particular dive tank, or if you don't want to play dive whatsoever, the ban onto the Mei does indicate that we're sort of answering, you know, blow for blow here already, getting D.Va such an important portion of that dive composition, and also taking down Mei, who really sort of facilitates these rush brawl style compositions here. Both these teams are already really taking swings at each other's compositions.
Yeah, Mei, of course, can really split up the battlefield in terms of like those kind of close range brawls, even in more kind of poke and prod compositions. Shenzhen Strikers have listed 2017 Dive Comp as their favorite, so if they do turn out to be a brawl team, that'll be a bit of a surprise. But we can get a look at the teams. EMC Chimera are running, as far as I understand, pretty much the exact same composition of players that I remember them playing. Ton is going to be playing on the tank role. Saikoka, I remember screaming that name on the DPS. Ikaj on the DPS as well. Octo and DBRX will be there on the support line backing up the team.
And on the other side of things here, EMC Chimera already looking pretty strong here, but for Shenzhen Strikers, for your DPS line, that's going to be JT and Tachyon cutting things off, as well as Yo-Yo Cheerio there for your tank, and Lucio's and Fee Gon for your support line here. We'll see if all the promises given by that back line come to pass, whether it is a feed or just a nice little homage to one of the greatest in the business here. Yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see how these two teams who seem to have a very different take on the current meta sort of clash in our first map of the series here, and whether or not, you know, who gets themselves in the driver's seat heading further in. And of course, even if you go onto the back foot in this first map here, you do have control over where we go next and whether or not you want to ban first for our subsequent map in the series.
And banning D.Va early very much is playing a heavy card, right? With these early bans in these kind of beginning matches, you also have to play the idea of, do we show our card early in a stream? I was in this position yesterday when I was getting streamed in the Masters division, and you're thinking, well, we know the other teams they can watch this live, they can watch this VOD, they can watch everything that we ban, everything we do. Do we just go ahead, go straight for the guttural and take out a D.Va? And we do. And now the rest of the teams know, okay, maybe they don't play D.Va, or is it all a ploy? I don't know. I'm a conspiracy theorist at heart, so maybe. But based off of the favorite hero of Ton, perhaps we will just be running the Remacha-based poke and brawl type compositions.
Yeah, you're absolutely right though, Gio, that like City Center really tends to be a map that if you have access to that central and on the flank high ground, you are vastly advantaged over your opponent here. Of course, D.Va is obviously the primary recipient of that high ground boon, but of course, Winston still is equally capable of making that work to his advantage here. So as we dive into the map proper, we'll see. It looks like Yo-Yo Cheerio already hovering that Winston as we're about to exit the gate. Of course, that could change any second before we actually leave the doors of spawn, but EMC Chimera seem to want to run with Ikaj here on this Orisa. All right, so it is going to be the Winston comp. Tachyon swaps over to that Genji, kind of what you expect coming alongside the Sojourn, as the backline is exactly what it's been since the dawn of Overwatch 2. Now Overwatch once again, it is going to be that Lucio Kiri backline for both of these squads here. EMC Chimera are running with this Tracer, so expect that backline pressure at all points and times, especially considering the fact that you're already down 2 bodies for Shenzhen Strikers. EMC Chimera have very much not bothered at all with running a dive tank when you can just get your reset to the top ropes anyway. That is going to be first take going the way of Chimera.
Yeah, Chimera's its weakest in its rotation. The Lucio, of course, helps a lot with that. And Shenzhen Strikers, they did try to split them up, but they already had a solid position around that Mega. And now you just see them holding close, not letting them have any good, strong dive areas. Apart from Psychoka already on this off angle, they can just catch that Genji off and not let them get that off angle.
Yeah, but Shenzhen Strikers very much conscious of this Tracer. Tachyon already trying to mark that opposite there, but Octo is the first to go down as Yo-Yo Cheerio lethal on this Winston, determined to get a bit of a toehold back on the objective here, and it looks as though Shenzhen Strikers might be able to do just that here, losing only 30%, which, honestly, Gio, the way that this map usually works, it usually takes a lot more effort to regain control of City Center.
Yeah, and it's going to be a whole lot harder for Chimera to get this Orisa into a position where they're in a strong area, because they're just going to constantly get harassed by JT, and they're going to be followed up on by the dash of the Genji, the jump of the Winston, even a kunai, a rogue kunai could just mess them up. You see that they're moving for the high ground, but they can just get cut off so easily.
Yeah, this Orisa makes them such a telegraph composition anytime they have to re-engage the point here. JT taking down DBRX, but also falling in turn. So it looks as though EMC Chimera losing their tank, that is kind of going to stuff a large portion of this push coming through. It is Psychoka on the point, well, for a few moments, if only that. Yo-Yo Cheerio cleaning up that Tracer, and Tachyon able to pair up with that Winston admirably. A solid attempt, but no ground gain for Chimera.
It's going to be so much on these Kirikos not to expend their TP. Now, to be fair, Chimera were in a tough spot. Ekaj was completely separated. That's why they've now went for the Winston, so they don't have that issue. But now they're being brought to match on the composition that Shenzhen chose to be on.
And now we're expecting to spend some ultimates here in this next engagement. JT falling down as it kicks off. That is a devastating hamstringing there of Shenzhen Strikers, as Chimera are dealing with a primaling Winston and Yo-Yo Cheerio, but the fact they've got everyone alive and well on the back of that Kitsune Rush should be just enough to allow them to regain control and wrest it out of Strikers' hands. Not a moment too soon, as 79%, that puts you in one-fight territory.
I mean, yes, in a good position. You've got the Rush, you've got the Beat and the Blade. Of course, the Overclock coming up as well. The defense do have some strong options. Chimera have already shown that, just like their namesake, they're adaptable. They have different faces, and they can adapt to this dive on the spot and quickly and efficiently also.
Well, spawn dropped on the ground. Strikers able to dodge out of the way of it. Psychoka about to build up towards, well, taking a little bit while to build up towards that next one here, working on it. Yo-Yo Cheerio falling dangerously low, has to get supported by the rest of the squad here on the objective. That is the Rush laid through the center of this point here. EMC Chimera are already about matching the percentage gain here for Strikers. Both sound barriers laid through from the back line, and the later one usually is the one that wins out here. Fijay Gon is able to keep that team alive and kicking for a few moments longer as Tachyon cleans up Ton. JT falling though, that's both Sojourns out of the fight, both with Overclock ready to roll. So that's going to be another fight sans this ult. They've both been holding on to this for such a long time at this point. And as percentage ticks up further and further, EMC Chimera are very much in the driver's seat. Strikers falling one by one. They might not be able to get back in control of this point. It looks as though Chimera have wrested it out of Strikers' hands. And despite some last-minute heroics here, JT is moving towards the objective. Might get a toe, but not even that. That's going to be a cleanup onto the front line as EMC Chimera take the first point.
Yeah, just like music, dive compositions are all about timing, and you saw the Tracer of Chimera just get into the back, already deal the damage as the dive came in. Psychoka and Ekaj very much in sync with each other, and even though that Kitsune Rush came out, they couldn't really get control of the point, and there was enough time where Chimera let themselves breathe that they could go back in for that. And yeah, the second beat did come out from Fidi Jong. Usually that does have quite an efficient win rate, but Tachyon didn't quite get what he needed with the blade because the beat health was still there on Chimera.
Yeah, so again, despite those, moments of brilliance there from Strikers, the adaptability here from EMC Chimera really serving them in good stead. And now as we're heading on towards Gardens here, both of them sticking on this Winston comp Ikaj, very conscious of the fact that anytime you try and rotate around with an Orisa, you're just so much more telegraphed, and the rest of the team is essentially strung along like baggage behind you here. Lucio's cleaning up Octo, though, on the initial aggression on the high ground. That should be an opening for Strikers, but they still have to be careful. Both these tanks, dangerously low, have to be very conscious of their health pools and their available bubbles here. But it looks as though with the high ground in their hands, Strikers are going to drop down to the objective. They can just clean up Ikaj. That'll be enough for them to cinch this first point capture.
Yeah, an early feast of sushi for Lucio's taking out Octo, and that means the high ground just immediately goes in the way of Strikers. And once you have the high ground on Gardens, it's so hard for the opponents to kind of regain it, especially with one person down. Now Chimera up against a very tough spot because 75% of their ultimate already for Tachyon means they can be very aggressive and surprise them with this blade.
Yeah, Saikoka about to have this pulse bomb ready online.
Oh, no.
And cleaning up Yo-Yo Cheerio, I mean, that is the go button if ever I've seen one. The rest of Chimera barreling onto the point, and no one is able to escape the incredible sight and spread of their net here. EMC Chimera leaping down onto JT, going for it with that Sojourn. Has to be noted that Ton Mikita is back here on this Cassidy now.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as rangy as, of course, the Sojourn, but the ability to use the Fan the Hammer up close against a Winston and that nade on all of these movement characters can be such a disruption. It does, however, mean that you don't have a lot of movement, so therefore, you are a big target yourself for these dives.
Without question here, Pulse Bomb ready to go from Saikoka. That is a rush laid through, but Lucio's immediately perishing for its trouble. I mean, Shenzhen Strikers down 2 bodies, but EMC Chimera down a bit more here. This is trading. We are 2 and 2 bodies on the objective here, as EMC Chimera have just edged past in terms of capture percentage on the objective. It's Saikoka cleaning up Tachyon, who was just trying to run to the high ground, getting away not at all from this Tracer, who has really proven to be already a standout in this matchup here. And still, the point ticking up for EMC Chimera. Losing DBRX is kind of tough, especially as Yo-Yo Cheerio is already here with this Primal Rage. You don't have access to that rush the further you get into this fight, but Octo is still here with this Sound Barrier if things get hairy, if they want to stick this one out and fight tooth and nail. But with as many people as they're already missing, especially now with Octo again having fallen, that should spell the retreat here for EMC Chimera, and Strikers might be able to edge this one out.
Saikoka is having such a field day right now, and the longer this fight goes on, the worse it is for Strikers who need to back up, and now it's 80% for Chimera who are looking to win Oasis, and they have every ult apart from Primal. This is going to have to be the biggest blade and overclock of the DPS's life here from Shenzhen.
EMC Chimera looked as though they were just going to lose that fight, but able to stick it out. I mean, it's that Tracer and Winston combination. Such a classic synergy. These two heroes, these two players are captaining perfectly. So it is going to be overtime already here on the objective. Sound Barrier out from Octo. Saikoka looking for a target from this Pulse Bomb. High Noon on the high ground. Everyone running for the hills, but there's no one left alive to even blast down with it. That's going to be EMC Chimera cleaning up Gardens and cleaning up this first map in the series. And yes, folks, that is a certified CGL Ajax. Gio, we were promised an Ajax in this series and already delivering.
Yes, well, it wouldn't be CGL if there wasn't an Ajax. And that last fight, there was 4 ultimates going up against. Realistically, there was no winning that. JT going down so early means that Chimera had recognized at least one of the ultimates that they had was the overclock. Get that out and you can't really burst through the beat health. And they were like, oh, we're winning. Let's just dump every single ult that we have onto the enemy's head and cause them a concussion. And now that concussion's lingering into the next map because, well, Chimera have the advantage of winning the first map. Now Shenzhen need to make as much out of being able to choose the next map and choose if they want to go for first ban or second ban. They need to make the most use out of this slight strategic opportunity here to try and not let Chimera get too much momentum.
Yeah, of course, just going down the first map in the series is not the end of the world here, but it's really starts getting dire once you get into that second one. If you do not clean up the second one, which now, again, as you say, they have full control over essentially where we're headed and who is going to be available to them, at least to start, of course, before that second ban comes through. So this is now their chance to reset themselves, get their heads right, and find, a good gear to place themselves in to continue the driving metaphor. Are also going to careen directly off of that road into oblivion here, as the EMC Chimera already proving themselves to be quite adaptable. They rolled out with that Arisa comp just to start, and being forced to switch over to the Winston didn't seem to slow them down. In fact, it seemed to be a bit of an accelerant. It really propelled them to sort of play this mirror composition, which Shenzhen Strikers unfortunately didn't seem to be able to, match the tempo of, especially once we got to that Cassidy swap. I think is a massive, huge boon to the composition on Gardens, as it really provided a good method of controlling that Winston, which otherwise really just falls down to Ekaj on that opposing Winston.
Yeah, and it's just... we were talking about D&D before we went live, and the fact that they're called Chimera, I used to always bring this up in the season that I last saw them in, but their adaptability, either they chose the name because they're adaptable, or they became adaptable and just embodied what a chimera is. It's got wings, it can breathe fire, it's a lion, it's a dragon, it's whatever you need it to be in the moment. And Chimera showed that, because they were struggling. They were like, how do we get this Arisa into place so our supports are going to get forced into a position where they're just getting dove upon? Well, they adapted, and not only did they adapt, they showed that they're strong on dive, they're strong on poke, and now the D.Va can't be banned. Perhaps that was Shenzhen knowing Chimera and trying to get the D.Va out of it, because D.Va's playable now. So is the Mei, however, for Shenzhen, but I doubt we're going to see the Mei, because Shenzhen seem to be a more dive preferring team.
Yeah, that seemed to be where they want to take it, but honestly, I'd be feeling a little bit shell-shocked right now, knowing that that was sort of your playstyle, and you kind of got a little bit bested on it in just 2 rounds. And yes, they were close and hard fought, but I think the further we got into that map, it was a lot closer, I think, on City Center than on Gardens. Gardens, there was that one fight in the middle that just dragged on forever, where it really felt like when the player numbers, were in favor of Shenzhen Strikers, they really should have had the chance to actually flip it and regain control. But EMC Chimera just stuck it out all the way through. They were able to rotate and cycle out who was on point. So that flip never came through. And at that point, we were just at 80%. And, as we called out at the time there, that was a 4-ult fight for the essentially defending team. And so little available to Strikers that I think it's really got to be a blow to the ego, feeling that this was your decision, that you wanted to make this, you had the ingredients to make this delicious stew, and then they just kicked the bowl over mid cooking to continue this metaphor, because that's what we're doing today. It's all metaphors today.
Yeah, the food's all over the floor, and what are we going to do? Eat it off the floor? You don't really have much choice. But talking about floor, let's see the lay of the land that we'll be going to now, because we have the map choice from Shenzhen Strikers. And yeah, Watchpoint Gibraltar, if you prefer your Winston dives, then I mean, whatever map were you really going to pick? This is your playground here. But when it comes to the bans, you're going to want to pick the first ban, because you want to protect some of your characters here, because we only saw the Genji from Shenzhen. The Winston was the first choice from Shenzhen, and the fact that they banned D.Va makes me think they're not comfortable on D.Va and they prefer Winston. Do they protect the Winston ban? Do they protect the Genji ban? Or do they just actually target one of the members of Chimera?
Yeah, it's tough. I think, damning out the tank is probably the best way to go for them. That does protect your Winston pick and your D.Va if that's it. But yeah, as they banned it out last time, I really think that Winston's the way they want to go. So no, Roadhog, that's a protection ban if ever one I've seen. Now it is to Chimera decide what they want to ban out. Of course, that does mean, the further we get into the series, if you're going to keep banning tanks like this, you're eventually going to run out of track unless you get this back in control, swinging back into your favor here. The ban onto the Genji from EMC Chimera, an excellent read as well. So essentially, both these teams are trying to affect the playstyle of Shenzhen Strikers here. Strikers playing defensively and EMC Chimera playing offensively here. So really no damage done whatsoever to the roster of EMC Chimera. They now essentially have full reign of how they want to play into this essentially guaranteed dive composition here coming out from Strikers. So I'm curious if they just want to continue with the Winston game. I think they looked really solid playing into it. So Chimera kind of, it's theirs to lose now for the second map.
It is, but I actually do think they're in a strong position. They were never going to play the Genji, so getting out of the way kind of forces and attacks the DPS lineup. You know, are we going to go for another flex DPS? I mean, Echo, of course, is always a great choice here, especially with the movement and to be able to land the stickies. Or is it just going to be, you know, the flex is going to be on this Tracer and the hit scan playing that long range Ashe? That looks like what both teams are doing. Shenzhen flirting with the idea of coming out here with Lucio Brig. Much more classic backline, opens you up to, of course, having the nano, the nade, into those dives. That's going to be the biggest thing with Tachyon on Symmetra. I think they're going to stay on this backline because you want to TP them across onto the opposite high ground, get them in a great position, and then it's all about landing those nades with those dives. However, DBRX has one small little ability that could mess with that, called Suzu, and you want to try and force that Suzu before you go for those dives with the nade.
Cheerio already diving on to that high ground there as Ikaz just holding strong just behind the objective. Clear line of sight onto everything happening directly before him. So that is going to be Strikers trying to hold down this bridge, but taking so much damage. Cheerio has to fall down to get healed up by the rest of the squad here. This Ana Brig is continuing for a few more moments. We'll see if that sticks, but oh, in a small room with a Winston, that is a terrifying place to be for that backline. Really showing the weaknesses, unfortunately, of that combo. Much as I love to see it, that's pretty tough here. I'll be surprised if we see them. They honestly might swap. It's a good backline to continue forward here, but that's got to feel bad.
Yeah, Saikoka and Ikaj continuing to look so in sync with each other. Saikoka was already there doing the damage as the cleave walked in and just cleaned it up. And they are going to continue with the Ana Brig. However, getting onto that high ground, they are going to have to take a moment to rotate there. And that Tracer's already there, and you know Ikaj will be waiting also.
Yep, Ton facing a bunch of pressure here as Yo-Yo Cheerio is already on this high ground trying to force out this more stationary backline. You do have to worry about that as the Ashe. The card has been pushed through the car wash phase here already by Tachyon, but unfortunately you've left the rest of the team in the dust and once again back in the spawn room, so that's as far as it's going to get for now.
Yeah, a little bit of stalemate, which is a little bit better for Shenzhen because it gives them time to stage. A lot of players already back. Big sleep onto DBRX forces that Suzu early.
Yeah, that is going to be a tool off the bench for just a few moments longer here. Saikoka and DBRX are combining again for so much damage being done. Really, Ikaj with this Primal Rage is icing on the cake here. We'll see. It certainly was necessary to disrupt everything, but yeah, that was all they needed to spend to really clinch this one, and a late kill onto Tachyon. Insult to injury here from DBRX.
In terms of the tools that we have in the attack here, we have both support ults, so we can stay alive against a dive with the rally. And that nano, I mean, your best target's probably going to be Yo-Yo Cheerio. Just get a little bit more damage on that cleave and Tachyon and try to follow up on it. A lot of opportunities here. That beat not ready from Octo to keep them alive.
Yeah, not quite ready here. Both support ults, if they're allowed to stay alive for a little bit longer here. A pulse bomb onto Fijay gone. There's only so much distance that Steel Bash can cover here. Brig does not quite have the moves he needed to escape from that. Nice Venn diagram here of Bubbles on the high ground, but only Hikaj left here to benefit from them. Cheerio is about to have this Primal Rage ready, but again, Shenzhen Strikers have built up to a full slate of ultimates, but we are down to 1 minute. They need to crack this open.
I don't know if Chimera did that intentionally, but Shenzhen's backline just kind of wandered into a no man's land situation where the pulse is what took out Fujiyong, but the dive was always ready there. And now Saikoka just constantly harassing his backline, almost single-handedly taking out the Ashe.
No, JT having a terrible time. Immediately, all the focus from the backline is directly directed towards your Ashe player, which means that you have your Primarily Winston, who is on the front line, able to clean up Ton Mikita and DPRX. So this is the opening that they have needed for so long here. Spending only 2 ults so far. If they can hold on to the rest of these as this fight drags on and on, that would be an excellent utilization of resources, but Psychoka is alive, which means there is a threat constantly peppering your backline, especially with this Pulse Bomb ready to go, but Tachyon's Tracer is able to go blow for blow here. In fact, Tachyon gets the better of Psychoka with this Pulse Bomb still ready, still weighted and chambered. Bob out from JT, but does fall as well. So Shenzhen Strikers are in the final corner of tapping point A, but EMC Chimeras, they now have control of the ult game.
So many ults and it's overtime. They can definitely retouch here. And with the Bob being able to touch point, that Kitsune Rush is going to cause so much havoc on point.
Yeah, put that Bob benefiting from it. That is a rapid fire chain gun of a Bob. You do not want to come anywhere close to that. None of that smoke necessary. And even if you do, yeah, Tommy couldn't even get that kill himself. That was all Bob all day. A full hold here from the defense. Excellent work from Chimera. That one fight where you really felt that Shenzhen Strikers had control of it, they had all the ults to work with, it just wasn't enough. They were a little bit too far back. They couldn't gain enough distance, and EMC Chimera answered back the exact same we saw on Gardens, just with a full slate of ultimates and nothing but time.
A little bit of deja vu, but not in a good way for Shenzhen Strikers. The team that last defeated them in the last season of CGL was EMC Chimera. So EMC, that is a pin in the side of Shenzhen that they need to get rid of. But Chimera have been through the heater because they were in the open division in the season they played, and like I said, they made it to playoffs. They've played against players that are in Masters division, and face it, not just GM players, but some of the best in the region, up and coming players. Now that they're in the GM tier, they don't have quite, you know, the larger kind of more master face-it teams to play against, but they're still playing like they are, and that's what has helped them. Full hold here on Gibraltar. The one sparkle of hope for Shenzhen is this is the comp they're strongest on, this is the map they brought us to, and if I had a penny for every time I saw Gibraltar get full hold even more than that, then I'd have quite a few quid.
The fuller hold here is all that Shenzhen Strikers need to maintain a tall order, but you're absolutely right, Gio. This is the place for them to do it. This is the map and the composition they wanted to play coming into this series. So, asleep onto Akash, going for that dive and anteed up. That is an obliterated Winston. Oh, just pieces of Gorilla raining down from the high ground there. That's a bit of a tough one. So first fight well and truly dusted for EMC Chimera. Strikers holding strong in this defense. This is honestly where this comp wants to play, on the defensive side of things.
Yeah, if we're going to dive like that with Ekash, we need DBRX to follow up, because that Suzu's going to be required. Lucio's going to be there with both the sleep and the nade, and you saw how difficult it's going to be for Ekash to get those dives.
Ton Mikita here on this Freya. The slight variation of composition here provides a little bit of, you know, skybox pressure, but VJ gone, cleaning up too. Both backliners from EMC Chimera getting taken down, falling to the hands, but there's still 2 bodies alive from Chimera, and turns out that's enough when only Tachyon remains for Shenzhen Strikers. A messy fight, but cleaned up on that high ground. Excellent rotations there from the DPS of Chimera.
Nano's going to be able to get built up in this next fight, allowing for a nice aggressive defense. Try and get rid of Ton before Ton can get too much damage. That Bola's going to be ready against slow-moving backlines like Anna and Brig. That Bola can actually get a lot done.
Tracer duel in the low ground background. We'll see who comes out on top. Both of them about to have that pulse bomb online, but as you say, Shenzhen Strikers have plenty to work with on the defense in terms of ultimates here. Chimera still building up towards their support ones, but that is going to be a nano out onto the Winston, who just built up towards that primal rage. That's going to earn you another fight once this one is well and truly done. Although, they're still fighting this here for Chimera. They want to get a cleanup, force the ultimate. That is a massive victory. Even if they don't win out on this fight here, forcing that primal rage is a huge tool off the board for Shenzhen Strikers as Chimera. Yes, they might lose this fight, but they're about to come into this next one with, say it with me here, 4 ultimates.
Yeah, this rally is going to have to do a lot here to keep the team alive, but not quite at it in the same way the beat and the rush is. Bola's still there. The thing is, Chimera, they have 90 seconds remaining. They just have to get a car around the corner. They have the patience of not needing to use ultimates, and now they have a situation where we can just Q dump here.
Time has been burned off the clock, but losing DBRX and Psychoka, that's got to be the retreat. Spell the alarm bells here for Chimera. They decide to get out of dodge. An excellent disengage here from a team who was so keen to fight it out in the last fight. So Shenzhen Strikers, now they know that there's a bit more space to work with. They do have the Pulse Bomb and the Rally, and now the Bob if this fight goes a little bit longer.
That pattern interrupt into Chimera's flow, that could be the small little thing that Shenzhen need to have to keep themselves alive here. Rally is up, but Octo goes down already.
Devastating loss so early in the fight here. DBRX already lets that rush. Once again, high ground, low ground. Bola shot ready, cleans up JT. It doesn't matter. Down your Lucio, who's going to be back here soon enough as that card is rotating already around this final corner into that gold box of victory. 30 seconds left on the clock. Baton and Psychoka are doing all the work as EMC Chimera powers gently moseys over the finish line. It is going to be Fiji gone back into this, but only for a moment as the cart sails into home. The fuller hold was not achieved. EMC Chimera take the second map in this series and put themselves on match point.
Yeah, it just seems like we have a team in Shenzhen who are strongest on dive up against a team who are stronger on that dive. The coordination between Ekash and, my god, look at this Primal in the corner. That's actually just cyberbullying. The coordination between Ekash and the rest of his team is so strong that the constant dives, constant pressure, constant successes in it. I would say Shenzhen did what they could there. 20 seconds were remaining on that attack. They were a fight away from winning, whether that would have been, being tighter to Rally to get that extra health, or just marking Psychoka a little bit more. But then there's no marking the ability of Psychoka to just be like, I'm going to control alt delete end task on your supports. Like, there's not really a defense against that. That will just happen.
And to find out what their answer is going to be for this third and now potentially final map in the series, folks, you have to stick around. On the other side of this break, we will see how the third map shakes out. Welcome back, folks. We are right here in the midst of a match between EMC Chimera and Shenzhen Strikers, which right now, I mean, I don't want to say it's been one-sided here, Gio, but I mean, the scoreline tells the tale. We are up 2-0 here for EMC Chimera, who, despite Shenzhen Strikers trying to take us to every style of map and every play style they can think of that ends in the word dive, Chimera are still winning out here at the end of the day.
Yeah, even from me and my Zoom call perspective, I mean, this is going to take so much for Shenzhen to really turn around, because in terms of the map pool, like, apart from going to Flashpoint or Push, you're then looking Escort, Route 66, and, well, actually, no, we can't do Escort, we just did Escort. In terms of hybrid, yeah, it's Hollywood or Numbani, right? And I don't know if either of these are going to be a struggle for Chimera. Both these map types are going to play into Chimera as much as Shenzhen, so I think more so than the map, it's going to be about who we're banning. Do we just get rid of Tracer, like self-sabotage, get rid of Tracer, and then have something else in our back pocket, or do we just continue to protect Winston? Because that's not working. I don't know, but we do know what map we are going to be going to next, and we are going to be going to Hybrid. We are going to be going to Numbani. What's going to fascinate me more is what bans are the teams going to come out with?
Yeah, once again, pretty much the divest of your hybrid map type here. So it's clear that they still want to stick with this playstyle, but again, the fact that they have just been, bested in their own game, you are kind of running out of track here. There's the Tracer ban. You're absolutely right, Gio. That is the correct move. I think you do need to risk hamstringing yourself a little bit here just for the sake of getting that incredible synergy that you've seen on the opposing side. I mean, Chimera, they're Winston and Tracer, it's giving shades of Prophet Gushue. If that's not too old head of a take, it's a very incredible synergy between those two here on the side of Chimera. But we'll see exactly what they want to ban out here, because banning, of course, your Tracer does mean that you have some options, and it's going to be the Ana ban for Chimera. All right, yeah. I think if anything was a sore spot for the dive coming out from Chimera, I think it was that Ana. I think that backline of Ana Brig was really solid in that defense, just unfortunately got a little bit battered down as time drug on. But yeah, solid bans for both these squads here. But again, it's very much Chimera in the driver's seat. Shenzhen Strikers, it's a whole Centaur's worth of back feet that they're on right now.
Yeah, Shenzhen are probably going with the assumption of we're going to be playing Genji in the DPS lineup. Chimera, they want to continue playing dive, but Ana is the best ban because they've been playing Ana Brig there instead of the carry Lucio. So let's force them away from the Ana. Let's force the carry Lucio. And now we don't have as much synergy with the Genji, because if we wanted to go with like the Nano Blade ult rotations, now that's off the field. Obviously, carry can still help the Genji a lot, but not as much as, Nano to actually make the Blade a very lethal one here. But Shenzhen Strikers, they need to show some signs of life. Gibraltar flatlined. We need to see their hearts pumping here against what could be one of the front runners in this GM tier in EU.
Minor swap coming through as Ton is now on the tank line. Ikash back to the DPS. Kind of what we were expecting coming into this series here, but pretty much it seemed to me as if when they're running this dive composition, it's Ikash who's going to be running this tank. So this kind of signifies to me that we're expecting, at least, it could be either way. It could just be that Winston is the name of the game here for Ikash, but the Diva, oh no, never mind, no role swap whatsoever. It is going to be Ikash once again. Just had that slight change up on the graphic. Don't worry about it, folks. I'm tired. It's early for me still here in the US. Don't worry about it. Yeah, it's going to be Diva out here, which is kind of what you expect, especially if you're going to be running into this Winston once again. Like we said, Diva and Winston do sort of chase each other's tails here quite a lot, so I'm curious to see how effective this Diva is into it and whether Yo-Yo Cheerio feels unleashed by this non-mirror composition, or whether it's a new level of harassment onto this poor Winston.
And yeah, Diva was the first ban Shenzhen did, so Now we're going to see why did we ban the Diva? Is it because there's a lot more going into it? I mean, Reaper essentially takes the place of the Tracer, right? Obviously a different character, but similar role in terms of disruption. You often see Tracer and Reaper interchanged for each other in different compositions, so that's why we're seeing Psychoka go for the Wraith one.
Yeah, especially into this Winston. Of course, there are few things that can get into the bubble and really devastating Winston like a Reaper. Psychoka doing exactly what it says on the tin, cleaning up Yo-Yo Cheerio. Yeah, that is a very tankless, very headless Shenzhen Strikers as EMC Chimera. They're just dumpstering the rest of the squad here to clean up this push. A minute burned off the clock.
They're continuing to pressure just in case they can get that Kiriko, but they're going to back up. And yeah, Psychoka's just going to often look, okay, did Yo-Yo Cheerio just jump in? Can they get away from me? No. Okay, let's deal massive amounts of damage. And even if they don't eliminate Yo-Yo Cheerio, Lucio's now needs to hard heal the tank, meaning Kunai's not getting thrown, and there's a lot less pressure on the Chimera defense.
Ikaj playing in defense for the rest of the squad here, really allowing Psychoka's Reaper to operate without any fear whatsoever. All the damage, apart from, Yo-Yo Cheerio's Winston, is really a huge threat here to this Reaper, of course, but a Reaper would love to be up close and personal with that Winston. So, yeah, really keeping it safe, this massive instrument that this flanking Reaper provides.
Shenzhen really struggling to find anything. They're not getting good rotations here. They are going to swap to the Wu Yang. Going to throw away the speed, not getting use out of it. So let's get a little bit extra survivability with the wave dash, but also extra damage, that extra long range damage with the poke of the Wu Yang also. But the defense are in such a strong position, not only in the ults, but in their constant pressure with the Reaper.
It looked for a moment like Yo-Yo Cheerio might have caught Ikaj a bit busy with the rest of the squad of strikers there, but the second that Ikaj and Psychoka combine to look directly at that Winston, you are going to lose your tank. So losing both Psychoka and DBRX is an opening here for Shenzhen Strikers. We have the Diva Bomb goes through and gets a kill. Lucios could not step out of that one. A devastating loss here. What should have been an opening for Shenzhen Strikers turned into another potential fight loss here, as we are down to sub 90-second territory.
A little bit too long in the fight was Psychoka and Ikaj there, but the ebb and flow after the fight, they backed up, gave some room. Now this whole high ground going to be lit up with that Kitsune Rush. Need to back up.
Ult's coming through, the Death Blast map from Psychoka, but eats a railgun shot to the dome, and that's the rest of the ult here being spent for Shenzhen Strikers. This is their moment. They know they need to crack this one open now. You cannot allow EMC Chimera to come back into this fight, but unfortunately it's exactly what they do, and not even a single tick gained. They crucially held on to 2 ultimates here as they're about to build up towards that second one. But again, spending massively and getting no permanent progress for it as we're down to 30 seconds.
JT is now going to be in this very horrible position of needs to be the superhero. Needs to be the superhero. There's no doubt about it. Now you do have the Tidal Rush, the Wu Yang ultimate that you can put onto JT to keep them alive. You can also put down to Yo-Yo Cheerio on Doomfist here to try and get a very strong dive, but forced it out.
Okay, the Tidal Blast did go through. That was not a Blast Jacks, Tidal Jacks. I don't know what we're calling that here. It's still pretty new as far as the heroes go. But again, you have lost most of your squad already, and there's no one alive to even touch the objective. I mean, talk about blink and you miss it. EMC Chimera didn't have to use any ults. In fact, only had the Diva Bomb in that fight. And just through the neutral, able to clean things up. Only that Tidal Blast spent there for Shenzhen Strikers. I mean, that has got to be a demoralizing push, and make no mistake, now they need to full hold, not a single tick of progress on that defense, whereas for your offense, Chimera just need 33% gained, and this series is done.
Yeah, when you're put into a best case scenario is survival situation, it's not great, because you can't win the map anymore. You just can't survive into the rest of the series, but Chimera only need 1 tick. What are they going to do with their ultimates? Are they going to use them in panic? Or are they just going to slowly build up all 5 ultimates and dump them on the head of Shenzhen like they've done at least twice before in this very series? Shenzhen are going to stay on the Wu Yang and the Doomfist. Okay, so again, this is Yo-Yo Cheerio feeling like Psychoka on the Reaper doing too much against them. Going to go the Doomfist, because if you block, then at least your punch is going to get empowered, and you can maybe get someone out like a Lucio or an Ashe with that empowered punch. But again, this is near impossible. Chimera, pretty much, it's on them not to lose.
When a team is in this tough a position as Shenzhen Strikers is here, I do usually prefer to see them switching up their composition. You need to try something. This exact same song and dance has not done you any favors all series long here, so I'm glad to see them making some adjustments here. We'll just see if they were the right adjustments and if it is enough here to win out at the end of the day. Baton already finding the better of their opposite in JT. Spells disaster here. Look, a valiant effort was made, certainly went for it, took a big swing, but unfortunately finding nothing but air here beneath them. It is going to be EMC Chimera down ton, but the rest of them are on the objective. And again, there's just a few more percentage points needed to clinch this one and end the series here and now as Psychoka cleans up. The rest of the squad does the same on the point. No chance whatsoever once EMC Chimera found their footing. That was a clean 3-0 sweep here for this team. Yeah, honestly, they just got stronger, got better, got more confident as the series went on.
Chimera are so in sync, and if my memory serves me right, this is the exact same squad that was together 2 seasons ago in CGL. So this is a team that have been together for enough time that it's not about communicating, it's just about intrinsically knowing each other. And not only is it Ekaj and Psychoka, obviously they're going to get the flashy plays, they're going to be the most noticeable duo because they're the ones getting the dives in, but also the support line are working so well together. The Lucio Octo doing very well at peeling when it needs to be peeled and keeping everyone alive when they need to be kept alive. And Chimera, if they continue this level of synergy, I think we are looking at someone who's going to be in the playoffs, who's going to be in the finals of this particular division in EU.
Yeah, honestly, couldn't be earlier in the season, but I fully agree, Gio. This is a team that is firing on all cylinders here, even when their opponent is trying to put them on the back foot, is trying to play their own type against them. EMC Chimera are totally fine to run that mirror composition. Now, it could be that they've just wanted to run dive all along, and Shenzhen Strikers just played directly into Chimera's hand here, but I don't know. We saw a lot of versatility, especially coming out with that Orisa just to kick things off on the city center of Oasis. Does indicate to me that this is far from a one-trick dive team. This is a squad that, as their namesake indicates here, really has a lot of tools at their disposal, a lot of ways to breathe fire on their opponent, whether that is the lion, the goat, or the serpent head. Any of these will do in a pinch here. And I fully agree. I think that it's not just the flashiest players here, but this full roster is operating all together with incredible synergy all the way through, being sustained throughout and holding on to these ultimates. I mean, we saw every single one of these maps here where at the end of the road they had good 3 or 4 ults just to end things off in such a commanding fashion here. Their economy control was really unparalleled all the way through.
And we will get to know a little bit more about what kind of builds that synergy, the confidence level of Chimera, and maybe a little bit about what they're thinking about the future of this tournament, considering what's about to happen in Overwatch, the base game, because we will be interviewing Octo after this short break. So don't go anywhere, folks, and we'll get into the minds of the Chimera.
Welcome back, folks. As promised, here we've got an interview with Octo, your main support from EMC Chimera, and they're going to join us for a quick interview here. First of all, Octo, how are we feeling after that victory?
Yeah, I feel relieved. Could have gone way worse. Also, we waited a bit long on the game. We made some scheduling issues, I think. But it all turned out alright. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was honestly really impressive. It felt like you guys got stronger and more confident as the series went on. Do you sort of feel that on your side as well?
Yeah, certainly. I think in the beginning of every series, there's always like some uncertainty towards the enemy team. And the more you play against the enemy team, the more you get to know them. So, yeah, I would agree with that statement.
Yes, and this team, you played previously in CGL 2 seasons ago. It was in the Open Division. Is this the exact same roster as you had back then?
No, I didn't play back then, I think. At least I can't remember. I was signed though. So this roster changes every now and again, so I'm pretty certain it can't have been the exact same roster.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. My memory fails me these days, so I always forget these things. It looked like Shenzhen kind of started out by banning the Diva, and they looked to be a heavy dive composition, and you guys primarily played the dive as well. Is that more so because it's what you prefer to play, or is that more in a response to what they were playing?
Yeah, we like playing Diva. I think Diva is strong, so when we can lock it and it isn't banned, I think we just roll. Yeah, on that hero, so like dive is pretty good for us. Also, we have a really good tracer player, so that's what we prefer in general.
I think that's a definite understatement when you say you have a good tracer player. Psychoka is quite insane at the game.
Yep.
Looking forward, obviously in CGL you can't play the new heroes until week 3, I think it is. But looking forward, how there's 5 new heroes being dropped next week in Overwatch. How confident are you guys in adapting quickly to such a shake-up in the game and the meta?
I genuinely think it's about how much we're gonna play in the next week. So just get a feel for the heroes. I think if we fail on that end, it might get a bit tricky for us, fashion-wise. But then once you just play the heroes, you get an understanding for them, then you just know what you want to do with them. So that's just going to be the plan. Just play them and we'll see.
Yeah, love the confidence for it. Before we let you go, anyone you want to drop a thanks to or shout out before you get on your way?
Oh yeah, shout out to Shark. Shark, our old tech support. He got banned. So because he got banned, I'm here. Hi. And whenever someone like doesn't show up, that's my role on the team. I get to play, so I'm always grateful for that when that happens. So yeah, that's the thanks. Also, thanks to NCG and Sky Commander for being there and supporting us in the chat.
Yeah, so you always need the support in the chat. I'm gonna refrain from asking why they're banned, because I feel like that's a road we don't want to go down. But hey, it worked out for you. You played well yourself, so it's not like you're bad. You definitely showed up. So even though you're like just there because someone got banned, you know you're definitely part of the team.
Oh yeah.
All right, well, Octo, thank you so much for joining us. Once again, congratulations on kicking things off with such a bang, and we can't wait to see more of you guys as the season goes on.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
All right, folks, great to hear from Octo. I'm delighted that they weren't necessarily even going to be in this match, you know, ahead of things here. But yeah, really proved to be such an important part of that roster. We talked about it all the way through the game here. It was not just the flashiness of that Tracer and the Winston, but the entire squad coming together with some incredible synergies.
This is going to be such an interesting season of CGL. And you think back to other changes that happened during CGL seasons and how much it shook things up. Obviously, last year in Overwatch, we had perks getting added and obviously different heroes in different seasons, but legitimately 5 heroes being added what I want to see, I don't know if it'll happen. I want to see Jetpack Capcom positions. I want to see Diva Bombs being dragged out of nowhere. I want to see, who was it? Lottie or Observers said, attack helicopter, Roadhogs. I want to see the strangest compositions. I think out of all of them, Anne ran the playtest. She doesn't quite do enough damage, but there is some synergy there with other characters that put people on fire, like Ash, Mauga, even the ult from Torb. But obviously, I think Emery, I have my eyes on. That could definitely be a contender for a new mainstay kind of compositional character. We'll see about the other support. Dom looks fun. You can literally put people in cages and be like, here's your cage, just sit and watch. No, it's Jetpack Cat that I want to say. I'm desperate for teams to pull out the Jetpack Cat just for the meme.
Well, don't worry, Gio. I'm sure we'll get plenty of it. Plenty more of Season 17 to go. We are just in Week 1 here, folks. Exciting times for Overwatch more generally, and CGL more specifically. So that's going to do it for us on the broadcast today. There is going to be some more CGL tonight with the NA series of things, but that's going to do it for us. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you later on down the line.